In late-breaking news from the Times of Israel, it says in a statement that Syria says Israeli airstrikes hit warehouse at Damascus airport. It's being reported that 7 missiles were fired at a Syrian target, and as it's reported that most of the missiles were intercepted, but a couple did get through. Now, of course, that's by a Syrian governmental source, so we don't know how truthful that is. In a statement, it says that 2 areas hosting military positions of Iranian forces and the Lebanese Hezbollah movement have been targeted, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitor said. And this was somewhere around 11:15 Israeli time. And getting right into the report, it's, if you remember from yesterday, I reported that it's been stated that U.S. forces will stay in southern Syria as a force against Iran. But on the heels of that report, it is being reported that the United States is beginning to move heavy equipment and military hardware out of southern Syria. And this is also being reported by the Times of Israel, and the title of the article is "Troop Pullout from Syria Has Started, U.S. Official Confirms." And this being reported out of Baghdad. It says the U.S.-led military coalition in Syria has begun the process of withdrawing troops from Syria, a U.S. military official said Friday, declining to comment on specific timetables or movements. Colonel Sean Ryan, spokesman for the coalition fighting the Islamic State group, said the U.S. started the process of our deliberate withdrawal from Syria. Out of concern for operational security, we will not discuss specific timelines, locations, or troops movements, he said in a statement emailed to the Associated Press. And basically, I think when President Trump did make this announcement, he did not take into consideration that it could get very messy if, in fact, the United States pulled out with all their equipment with a visible timeline. So I think what he did was he re-announced the fact that the United States may stay in Syria for some time, and that kind of took the heat off of the 2,000 men that were there, and also on the movement of equipment. It's almost the case of, in the cover of darkness, that they're going to try to leave Syria. And the fact that multiple sources have been reporting this, I have a feeling that in the process of moving this heavy equipment that the U.S. was found out, so they had to come clean and give a confirmation on this. It's being reported by the British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which monitors the conflict in Syria. And they stated that the pullout actually started on Thursday night. It is said a convoy of about 10 armored vehicles, in addition to some trucks, pulled out from Syria's northeastern town of Ramallah into Iraq. But here's kind of a conflict, I think. It says on Sunday, U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton said American troops will not leave northeastern Syria until IS is defeated and American allied Kurdish fighters are protected. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is on a tour of the region, has also sought to reassure the Kurds that they will be safe after U.S. troops withdraw from the country. And this is what Pompeo said. He said that these have been folks that have fought with us, and it's important that we do everything we can to ensure that those folks that fought with us are protected, Pompeo said of the Kurds while visiting Arbil, the capital of Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdistan region, after talks in Baghdad. Well, the problem is I think we can take that as a lot of bluster because of the fact of what the Bible does say. And, you know, from the report that I gave yesterday, it looks like that Turkey is the one who is most anxious to get into Syria and to take out the Kurds and also establish a presence in that area, absent of the United States. I remember from the article that I did read yesterday, it is Turkey who wants to establish an Iranian, Russian, and Turkish coalition in the country of Syria. And here's something that you should also pay attention to. Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo vowed Thursday the United States and its allies would work diplomatically to expel all Iranian troops from Syria, urging Middle East nations to forge a common stand against Tehran. And, you know, I think that's going to be the basis of this peace process that will take place. That will be a peace with many and Israel. That will be a common bond that will come together to confront this Syrian invasion of Iran and the threat that it brings on the rest of the Middle East. I really think that will be the basis of this peace process. So here's what you have twofold. You have the United States saying that they are going to abruptly pull up stakes and move out of Syria. Then President Trump backtracked. I believe the reason why he backtracked was because he wanted to be able to sneak out of Syria, or at least be unpredictable. And that's kind of what's taking place right now. But at the same time, he is trying to forge a coalition between the Middle East partners, the Moderate Arab League countries, and also Israel. That's really the reason behind all of the recent visits to Arab countries from Israel, and vice versa. You know, here's one more article that I wanted you to also see. This is coming out of a military media source called Defense One, and how they're describing this pullout of the United States is basically a traitorous move by the United States, coming to these various Middle Eastern countries and assuring them that the United States will always be there to have their back and to protect their territory. Places such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, of course Israel, but at the same time pulling out not only from Syria but also from Afghanistan. But in truth, this just sets the stage for what I believe is going to bring about what the Bible has described in Ezekiel 38, is when the Gog and Magog war, where Russia, Iran, and Turkey, and a number of other Muslim countries will come down upon Israel. And I think the reason why they're going to come down upon Israel first is because they believe that is the biggest threat that they will have to face in taking over the entire Middle East. I'm not so sure that it's just a war against Israel and that's it. I think that they're stopping Israel first. Once they take over Israel, then they'll roll over the rest of the Middle East. One thing you should remember, in Ezekiel 38, I believe it's in verse 13, Saudi Arabia is said to protest this attack, which would be kind of strange any other time than now, especially since I believe that Saudi Arabia will probably likely play a big part in this new peace with many that will eventually come. But that will likely be stage 2 of this prophetic event, where the first stage is that the United States leaves the area, leaves Israel and the rest of the Middle East vulnerable to an attack by Iran, but it'll turn out that it will be led by Russia. There will be the Russian leader who will come forth, and there will be a spoil. The Bible says that this spoil will be so enticing, and that God will actually put it in their mind, or in his mind, and place a hook in his mouth that he will not be able to turn away from it. It's going to be that good. Now the question is whether or not this peace with many that the president and reiterated by Pompeo for the Middle East countries to come together as a united force against Iran will come first or will come after this war takes place. Personally, I believe that this united front will come first because I think that's the basis of this peace with many. And then once that takes place, I think then you're going to see this attack take place. But that's the report I have for tonight. Keep your eyes on this because we have a lot of prophecy news coming up in the near few months, actually. And I will continue to keep you up to date on these issues. And certainly, if you do not know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. 150,000 people will die today. The Bible says that the vast majority of them will end up in a burning hell. You don't need to be one of them. Come to the Lord today, ask him to save you, and from this day forward, live for him. And you are Christians, you need to get a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. Go down to the bottom of this video in the description section, click on the link that will take you to my website, and get my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. There's 2 versions. You can either get the paperback version, which you can physically hand to your lost friend or loved one, or you can get the digital version, which you can have them put it on their phone. But either way, make your lost friends and loved ones aware that this book is out here. I created it for the people who will be left behind, and I think it will be a great source for those who are left behind. So take advantage of it, get it, and get it to your lost friend or loved one. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.